For more on the summit and the expectations, I spoke to Stephan Haggard. He's the director of the Korea Pacific program at the University of California, San Diego. I began by asking him if the meeting would be mainly for show.
Believe it or not, I think some of it will be substance, because there have certainly been negotiations between the United States and North Korea, but both of these leaders maintain a lot of discretion. So I think there's a possibility that there could be surprises coming out of this.
So what areas do you think we're going to see some substance? And realistically, looking at this, what kind of outcome can we expect?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is that denuclearization is not going to take place in Singapore. Basically, what you're going to get is a statement of intent on the part of the two parties. So one of the first things to look for is whether they just say this verbally, the two leaders just say verbally, we've agreed on denuclearization, or whether there's at least a little bit more detailed roadmap in the form of a joint statement that outlines some of the common objectives. That's one of the first things we'll want to see.
Do you even think the two sides are on the same page when it comes to this very important issue of denuclearization?
Well, believe it or not, I do. And the reason I believe it is because Mike Pompeo has been working this issue for over a year, and he's been surprisingly self-confident. So I don't think he would be raising expectations going into the summit if there wasn't something there to deliver. Now, the question is what that is. It could be simply a statement by Kim Jong-un that he's willing to denuclearize, but of course that doesn't mean he has denuclearized. That will take months, maybe even years to negotiate.
You know, we've talked to a lot of people on our program. We've talked to some skeptics about this summit. Many say, you know, DPRK, Kim Jong-un cannot be trusted. He's just stringing U.S., Seoul, and, you know, China along on all this. Others seem to be more optimistic, saying, you know, you got to start somewhere. And this might be the first step in something very important on the Korean Peninsula.
Well, this may not make sense to you, but I agree with both of those positions. Obviously, Kim Jong-un can't be trusted to do what he says he's going to do. We'll need a verification regime, we'll need inspector, we'll need a declaration of his program. But you have to remember that right now we're nowhere. We haven't made any progress on this issue. And I think that the position of China has been very firm on this. They've participated. South Korea has helped this summit happen. There are a series of forces that are combining to push the parties together. And I think we just have to see what happens, as President Trump says. We won't know until the two leaders meet.
And there was a reporter there was a question from a reporter, I believe it was this week, maybe even yesterday. Someone said, you know, President Trump, are you ready? And he said, I don't think I have to prepare very much for the summit. It's all about attitude. What do you make of that comment? And what does he mean by that?
Well, of course, analysts like me cringe when the president says those things. But you have to understand that they're not entirely true, because Mike Pompeo himself personally has met twice with Kim Jong-un. We have a team that's been in North Korea just over the last 10 days, very quietly negotiating details. There was an advanced team in Singapore. I think there are things going on behind the scenes that are just not visible to the parties yet. And Pompeo himself has basically said that he believes that Kim Jong-un is willing to at least initiate a process. And he's been lowering expectations as well. He's saying this will take some time, which I think is right.
And Stephan, very quickly, let's talk about China's role, which you mentioned a little bit. Moving forward, what does Beijing hope to get out of it? Kim and President Xi, of course, have met a number of times in recent months in Beijing as well as in Dalian.
I believe China has an interest in a denuclearized Korean Peninsula. They've said that all along, and they've played a very crucial role with respect to the sanctions regime. I think the one thing for Chinese policy that's going to be hard is maintaining the pressure on North Korea. If Beijing lets up in that regard, then obviously it'll provide Kim Jong-un an opportunity to backslide.
Our thanks to Stephan Haggard.